Welcome everyone to Expat TV. My name is Amy Peterson, and here on Expat TV we take the chance to interview many expats who either work with other expats or simply share their own experience from around the world. Today's guest is Kylie, and I wanted to take a moment to introduce you to her now. Kylie is a relocation health coach, and she's also the author of the book that you can see on the screen at the moment. With over 15 relocations across 6 countries, Kylie has a long personal experience of moving as a child, solo adult, dependent partner, mum, as well as a business owner. Combined with a certification as a health coach and a background in travel and finance, Kylie works with her clients to ensure a smooth move, and she's very passionate about helping people relocate with energy and ease to let them land in their new home. When Kylie's not busy coaching clients, writing articles, courses, or books, you can find her in the kitchen creating healthy treats for her family or exploring her new surroundings with her husband, 2 daughters, and frequent visitors wherever they happen to live in the world. Welcome, Kylie, to Expat TV. So welcome, Kylie, all the way from Tonga, is it?
Vanuatu now, Tonga before now, Vanuatu now.
Wow. Well, it's great to have you on Expat TV, and I'm really excited about the topic we're going to chat about today because I know you've got long experience of this. But first of all, welcome to Expat TV, and thanks for taking the time to join us.
Delighted to be here. Thanks, Emmy.
That's great. So today we are going to talk about one of the big topics that I hear from my clients all the time, which is relocating the family. And often I talk to people about moving as a couple and stuff like that, but you've moved your family quite a few times. So I was wondering if you wanted to give us a short little background about your family and how you guys went about it.
Sure. Okay, so we've got 2 daughters. They're now aged 9 and 11, and their first move was from Tasmania to travel around Australia. We did that for 10 months. So we then ended up in a different town, Wollongbar. So there briefly, didn't quite go to plan. So we moved to Brisbane. That went well, and we stayed there for about 5 years. But my husband and I had done a fair bit of living abroad before the children were born. It was always on our radar that we'd like to take them overseas again, just have a different idea on how the world works and perhaps reduce their reliance on material possessions as well. So we were sort of thinking developing nations. So we had the opportunity to do that, to go to Tonga, where we were there for about 15 months. And then we moved along to Vanuatu, where we are now. And we've been here for almost a year. So they've had quite a few moves in their life, and they're getting more resilient with everyone. So certainly having a family is no reason not to do this if that's what is good for the family, that particular family.
Well, it's interesting because I hear a lot of people who are very comfortable to travel and relocate before the children come, because obviously, you know, schooling and those sort of elements are a little bit easier because you don't have to worry about those elements. So what would you say when you guys decided to make this move and you know, allow your family to go and explore, if you will, what was the main driver that made you guys do that, other than obviously, you know, like you said, you know, for them to see the world? Was there any other drivers for your family behind that?
It's possibly a little bit selfish because my husband and I really enjoy living overseas, and we felt that we've grown throughout that process. So we wanted to do it and didn't feel that the children would be harmed by it. And in fact, we thought it would be a positive experience for them as well. So I'd say we were the ones who wanted to do it. We knew it would be good for the kids. And all we really wanted to take into it, well, there was a few things, but our main non-negotiables were that schooling would be acceptable, that it was a relatively safe environment to go to. And the third one was that it was close enough for us to be able to visit family, like grandparents, and for the grandparents to visit us. And because it was safe, that they would feel comfortable coming to visit us. And that's why we focused on the specific nations, because Australians love going to those places for a holiday. So why not choose that? And then we were bound to have lots of visitors. Didn't have many in Tonga. It was really the ones who only wanted to come and visit us that came, because they really weren't sure what Tonga was all about. It's actually a really beautiful place and a great place to visit if you know somebody. But Vanuatu, we're having every school holiday seems to be booked up with people coming to visit us. So I would say the driver was just to give them a more global outlook on life rather than just the Australian perception.
Oh, wow. And how have you found for the children that language has come into the move? Has that been a challenge at any point? Obviously, you're probably speaking English at home, but how's that sort of affected the move for the kids?
In both schools, it's been English speaking. We did consider putting them into a French speaking school here in Vanuatu because it's actually trilingual. They have 3 languages here in Vanuatu: English, French, and Bislama, which is it's basically hybridized English that was formed a couple of hundred years ago when English people came into the islands.
Cool.
It's a really fun language to learn, actually. So I've been learning that. Kids haven't needed it for schooling because they're taught in English and they have French immersion to take in more of that. So in both Tonga and Vanuatu, we have been able to get away speaking English. We have learnt the basics just so we can show respect and have a little bit more of an understanding of the local culture. I've been taking Bislama lessons here just out of interest. I'd like to be able to have more conversations with people at the market. But in terms of being able to get around and live your life, English has passed in both places. Very happy that the locals have chosen to learn English to be able to have conversations with tourists, really, and to open up their opportunities for jobs. So
and I find, sorry, with children as well, because I've travelled a lot over the last 15 years, and every time we go anywhere where there are children, they seem to find a way of communicating organically anyway. Like you don't need to explain that it's a football. They see that it's a ball and they just kind of off they go. And a friend of mine, actually, she did travel a fair bit of the world by herself with her young daughter, and she said it was a great introduction for her to other people because the kids just go up and start playing and then kind of forced as a parent to talk to the other parent and kind of socialise. So in a way, I guess it's pretty good conversation starter.
Absolutely. And I find that talking to children is really good because their language level is better than mine, but it's closer than the adults. So I tend to have lots of conversations with the local kids, which is good fun to do.
Oh, well, there you go. Good language learning stuff. Oh, wow. So, I mean, obviously, I don't have children myself, but I know quite a few people who've relocated with a family. And one thing a lot of people say that the key for them was to kind of get working as a team for the move, and not just like all the practical stuff, but involving the whole family as a team and kind of going, this is our joint adventure. What are your tips around that and your experience with your own children? How you guys went about that, and because it would have been hard sometimes for the kids, I presume, like to leave old friends behind and things like that.
Absolutely. But the word you used there, a joint adventure, we've used as well. And we said, look, we've got this opportunity to do this, and we've always framed it in very positive language. So the girls could always see that we weren't frightened by it, nor did we find that there would be challenges. We didn't say it was going to be easy, but we said, won't this be fun to do together? So I think that those 2 words that you used, phrases, work as a team and a joint adventure, is probably the key that's worked for us. So the way we've done it is basically been open and listen to how everybody's feeling and saying it's okay to feel sad or worried or anxious or whatever. Let's talk it through, but then let's try to put a positive spin on it. So, for example, when we first moved to Tonga, my eldest child is much more tentative and not happy with change. So she was really concerned. So we just tried to use as many positive words as we could to sort of say, I wonder what new friends we'll make, what we'll get to do. We looked up a little bit on the internet to see, what places we might visit and what we might buy a lot of, for example, coconuts and bananas. So that was big for like, how exciting will it be to my coconut every day, which we got to do in Tonga. So because that was such a, and then we ended up halfway through our stay in Tonga living in this beautiful beach house right on the coast. It was a really interesting bit of rocky coast, and we had our personal swimming hole that really we were the only ones in most of the time, and it would rise up and down with the each swell, and it was just like being in a spa bath that went up and down. It was fantastic. So when we were coming to Vanuatu, our phrasing was, look, we found the blue hole. Imagine what we're going to find in Vanuatu. And then the kids were like, yeah, I wonder what new friends we're going to make. So I think having a good experience the first time moving overseas made it easier for them to think, I wonder what the second experience will be. And they just went into it feeling pretty positive. They did leave some really good friends. We all did leave some really good friends, both in Brisbane and then from Tonga, moving to here. We've kept in touch. The kids being a little bit older now has been nicer because they've been able to keep in touch with Skype and email and so on a little bit. They have focused more on making new friends, which I think there has to be that balance. You stay in touch with the old friends, but you also aim to make new friends in the new location. So I would say just talking about how we did it last time, so we've got the skills to do it next time, but also they helped Rod and I keep it real by we could never just pack constantly, for example. We had to stop to have a break, to go for a walk or have a meal or whatever else. So I think that having the kids along has allowed Rod and I to have a more graceful move as well, a more balanced move, like let's make sure we have time for a farewell party, that sort of thing, which in the past we were just ready to move on again and didn't really give ourselves a chance to say goodbye to those friends that we've made.
Wow, it sounds in a way for you guys, obviously you were pretty used to moving before, but it sounds like the children in a way grounded you guys to have a better experience overall. And it's really nice to hear that, because I think the flip side of that some people experience is that whole challenge around the stress elements, I guess, around the move, and people focus on them. And it's really nice to hear your story, because it sounds like you guys were focused. Obviously, there would have been some challenges. I'm sure we'll get to them in a moment. But in terms of the wider focus, it sounds like you guys chose to see this as a blessing, which I think is a really great lesson for any readers or listeners out there who's listening to us today, is to remember that, and from a child's eye, things are often very simple. It's not, I think as adults, we often overcomplicate things a lot. And like you say, the significance of a leaving party, it's an amazing thing to be able to celebrate what you had and celebrate the people you're going to stay in touch with when you go. So that's really lovely to hear. But obviously we've got listeners out there who are going, that all sounds great, but what about the challenges? So I'm going to have to ask you, Kylie, what was some of the biggest challenges when you go?
The challenge actually was more for me. I think there's one person in the family who tends to do all the logistics and gets all tied up, organising the packing and the unpacking and connecting utilities and everything else like that. So I did all those things, and I guess about a month after being here in Vanuatu, I realised I'd been focusing all my energy on helping them settle in, and I really hadn't settled in well myself. And that was really eye-opening to look around and see Rod and the two children had made friends, they'd settled into work and school, and I'd been so busy doing the logistics and keeping my business going over the move that all I'd really done is change my wall. So where my desk was, I changed from one house to another desk, and I was still doing the same things and connecting with the same people, and I'd actually forgotten to go out and make friends. So that was certainly a challenge. Realising that I had to look after myself as well, which is really ironic given that I am a relocation health coach, and this is exactly what I'm suggesting to other people to do. And I've done exactly that, which is really eye-opening to realise that having somebody to chat with, to talk about what's going on in your life, and to perhaps notice those missing important pieces, it was really good to see that I'd give that up. But not too many challenges. It all really comes down to the logistics, and some of those you can't control. So just rolling with those, not getting too upset. When your goods don't arrive in time, ask for help. For example, our things were meant to be here the same weekend that we arrived. So we ended up moving into a house with no sheets, no plates, no cutlery, none of the essentials that would mean that you can even sleep the first night. So we just had to put the call out. Lots of expats in Vanuatu able to say, yeah, I can lend you some sheets for 2 weeks until your stuff gets through. Here's some plates, here's some cutlery and all that sort of thing, because we just didn't want to be buying it. It's really expensive here to buy those things. We knew we spent a lot of money shipping them here, so we didn't want to go and buy those again. So asking for help, and that means as a family as well. So one of your kids does have to go to the doctor, ask another mum or dad, could you look after the other child or whatever else. I think that's a really key thing to remember.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine. And also, obviously, we have to acknowledge that, depending how far away you move, you guys moved to you know, a few different places that are all quite different. And I can imagine for someone who's moving from a very westernized country to, you know, say parts of Africa or Asia, obviously you would have a very different experience physically because the environment you land in is very different. So absolutely. But I think, you know, so I'm wondering, you know, you've obviously touched on a few key tips, which is, you know, make sure to ask people for help and make sure, especially as a mum, I would say, you're probably often the logistical coordinator to look after yourself. Are there any other key tips that you would really like to give our viewers about, you know, this whole moving with a family and what they can think about if that's ahead of them at the moment?
Absolutely. So I think the top tip is to get the kids involved as much as you can, and that'll depend on their age group. So for toddlers, it would be helping them or allowing them to pack a box just a few weeks before you go. But if they're primary age, it might be getting on the computer and actually researching a little bit about where you're going so they can get excited about it and allow them to ask lots of questions in case they're feeling anxious about a little part of that. And for teenagers, it's acknowledging that the friends that they have in the current location is such a vital part of their support system that you need to help them make sure they can stay in touch with those old friends while they're creating a new support system, which might not happen right away. So I think it really depends on thinking what age are the kids and what can I get them involved in, and making sure they have lots of chance to be involved and feel like their opinion counts. And what we've found with our family is making sure that there's lots of time for them to ask those questions. So it might come up while you're playing a board game together or going for a walk together or just walking around town or whatever else. Like often the questions spring up when you haven't said, so are you worried about the move? Or not that you might phrase it like that. So what are you thinking about our move? They might not come to mind. They tend to be mulling over them when they're doing other things with you.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, and that's probably good for the entire family, and especially, I guess, your relationship with your partner as well, you know, as parents and as the leaders of the move, to have that really open conversation, because there could be times, you know, we all know, anyone who's ever relocated knows, you know, packing boxes, you're doing things, you're organising tickets and visas and all sorts of things. And to really, I guess, have those conversations as well with your partner, because if you're going to be a strong team, mum and dad or, you know, whoever's leading the move need to be pretty strong as well.
Absolutely. And that's another thing that I have found is that I've had to make sure I bring up the conversations about what our roles and responsibilities will be with your partner, with your husband, about what to expect in the next location. Like, do you think I will be working there? Will I have the opportunity to work there? What do you see me doing? What do you think you'll be doing? How often will you be away? What sort of work hours do you think? And obviously, you're not going to get it all right, but at least opening that conversation with your partner, it's not just about the kids, it's making sure that your relationship is strong as well and that you can work as a team. Absolutely.
Well, you guys have obviously done this many times over, and I'm sure that the next time you move, wherever that move goes, you'll find other, you know, beautiful little things and other challenges as well. And I think that's one thing I always say to clients, is that just because you've done this a few times doesn't mean that the next move will be the same or just as easy or just as hard. So, because I think, you know, as a family evolves, or even as we as adults grow older, things change for us as well. And I think the most important thing is to take the elements of last time that worked, tweak them for the new place, and all the wonderful tips you've given us today, I trust are going to be really, really useful for anyone who's watching. So thank you so much for your time, Kylie. We're going to put up some contact details to your website. You also obviously work with relocation, similar to myself. And I can really highly encourage anyone who's watching and want to talk about this whole aspect of moving with a family, I can strongly recommend to connect with Kylie, because she's, as you can tell, done it quite a few times. And thank you so much, Kylie, for being on Expat TV today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Emmy. I've really enjoyed it too. Great to chat. Thanks so much.
Thank you. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Kylie, for that conversation. That was really, really cool. And I trust as a listener you enjoyed it as much as we did. If you want to connect with Kylie and ask any questions or find out more about what she does, you can hop on her website, relocationhealth.com. And you can also find the details about her book there on her website. And I want to really say thank you so much to Kylie for taking the time to be with us on Expat TV today, all the way from overseas. And until we meet again, happy travels.